I hate project management software. Despise it. Refuse to use it. And if I can help it, I don't even look at it. Now, this does not endear me to people in my life who are more traditionally organized and process-driven, including my husband, who I'm pretty sure thinks this is my most toxic trait. I've always been like this, but years ago, I realized that the reason I couldn't tolerate project management software was because, by and large, it works on the assumption that projects are linear and discrete, which totally has its use, but it doesn't work with my brain, and it doesn't work with my goals. You see, the software design necessarily reduces work to tasks that can be named, ordered, and given a due date. It divorces the content of work from its form and purpose. In the user interface of project management apps, there's just no such thing as the big picture. Once I saw how the software itself tried to force me into a way of relating to my work and my working relationships, I couldn't unsee it. And I hated it even more. I'm Tara McMullen, and this is What Works, the show that rethinks work, business, and leadership for the 21st century economy. I'm not going to spend the rest of this episode hating on ClickUp or Asana or Trello. And please do not at me with recommendations for different apps or hacks for working with project management software. I'm not interested. I do not care. I am happy for you if you love your project management software. I'm thrilled if you find it useful. My point is not to shame anyone into abandoning a system that works for them, of course. My point is to ask a simple question. Do you see your software? I mean, do you see how it influences how you run meetings, brainstorm ideas, fulfill your responsibilities, and communicate with others? Do you see how its text boxes, radio buttons, tabs, search results, and menus train you to think? Do you see it? Or do you just use it? In October, The Verge's Nilay Patel did an episode of his podcast, Decoder, on the impossible dream of good workplace software.
I feel like a fair warning for the audience here is that David loves software, and my goal in life is to never use software at work.
Patel and his guest, Verge's David Pierce, discussed the promise of workplace software as, if everybody worked this way, it would be great.
I am the person you're describing who encounters the software and thinks, why is this making me work this way? Because that is the promise. That's the exciting thing. Hey, if everybody just worked this way, you'd be so much more productive.
Now, that is certainly the promise of project management software. It's been the promise of tools like Google Drive and Microsoft Office. It's become the promise of apps like Canva and Figma. However, Pierce argued that this promise could be an existential problem.
The if everybody worked this way, it would be great is the great truism and mistake of the software industry, because it's just impossible. The idea that you're going to get an entire large group of people to all understand a single system and process and tool for getting things done is borderline impossible.
And he's right. Yet more importantly, what Patel and Pierce reveal is that the value proposition of workplace software, beyond lower costs, well beyond greater productivity, is conformity. It's sameness. It's predictability. Engineering sameness and predictability into work patterns has been with us since at least the advent of scientific management in the early 20th century. We gain efficiency when we simplify and standardize a complex task that can be done in various ways. This type of standardization also reduces the power of any one worker because the job requires less skill, let alone craft, to complete. It makes work less fulfilling while also allowing the employer to pay less for it. In the pre-software workplace, workers could focus their dissatisfaction on the boss. It was the manager who insisted on sameness and predictability. You could get mad at the manager. You knew who they were and how they would respond if you didn't do things the way they wanted. You knew others were in the same boat and could together plan acts of resistance. But now that software has eaten the world, many of us don't know where to direct our ire or even why we might feel frustrated in the first place. Software mediates our experience of the work we do, quite often in ways that improve efficiency, but also make work less satisfying. We end up angry at ourselves rather than the boss. And if we're our own boss, well, we might get doubly angry, ranting to ourselves about our lack of discipline or pleading that we're just not very techy. We don't see the software, so we don't see how it alters how we work, what we perceive as productive, or how doing things differently becomes increasingly difficult to imagine. When we learn how to use a new piece of software, we learn a new way to work. When my husband decided to run our production agency on ClickUp instead of Asana, he had to learn the best ways to use the software, given the kind of work we do and the team we work with. At the same time, he and our team revisited our production and communication processes. Learning the software and reevaluating our processes weren't independent exercises. They overlapped in every way. Sean asked himself and the team, consciously or not, given this feature or this limitation of ClickUp, how could we do this better? Understandably, the feature or limitation is accepted as unchangeable. It's the humans that end up changing to accommodate it. Now, we change in relation to resistant and unmovable forces all the time. I can't change the bureaucratic hula hoops I have to go through to update my name on my passport or sign up for next year's health insurance policy. I learn the process, follow the instructions, and act accordingly. The procedure is visible. If I want to do a thing, I have to engage with the procedure to do it on its own terms. But software functions differently. We largely see software as tools of our own agency. The onboarding instructions, help docs, and customer support seem to exist to help us do what we want to do. In reality, they exist to shape our behavior to fit the tool. If we can't change the code, we must change ourselves, our work, or our aims. In a piece about AI chatbots and generative models, technology and culture writer Rob Horning argued that this form of artificial intelligence is, quote, a tool of power that masquerades as a tool of knowledge. Something similar could be said about project management software. These apps are tools of power that masquerade as tools of agency. Or to expand our scope a bit, design tools like Canva and Figma are tools of power that masquerade as tools of expression. Meeting tools like Zoom or Google Meet are tools of power that masquerade as communication tools. That these apps are all tools of power does not require us to stop using them. But we do need to be aware of the power they wield and how we adapt our behavior or even worldview to accommodate that power. any piece of software enables some actions and disables others. This is a normative process as well as a political one. Consider early Twitter's 140-character limit. The platform disabled long posts and enabled short ones. So early users learned to communicate 140 characters at a time. People who could state things succinctly with viral flair became power users. And because succinctness and viral flair don't lend themselves to thoughtful, nuanced discourse, the users and messages that rose to the top tended to be, to put it not so nicely, overly confident blowhards. As a result, those blowhards gained power and established new norms. Others followed in their place, and we learned to use the tool that was Twitter the way the blowhards did. And that is how we got, well, all of this. The mass adoption of Zoom in 2020 also highlights these normative and political effects. While work-from-homers like me had internalized Zoom's norms years before, many new users were engaging with its features for the very first time. Teams needed to form new norms around meetings, collaboration, and participation now that these things couldn't be done in person. Discussion of those new norms explicitly took the form of Zoom's features: muting, unmuting, camera on, camera off, use the chat, or speak out loud. Fortunately, some of these new norms also prompted conversations about accessibility, mental health, and the challenge of Zooming in the same place where your husky might get the Zoomies. All media influence how we think, socialize, work, and participate in society. Language mediates our experience of the other. The clock, first analog and then digital, mediates our experience of time. The book mediates our experience of knowledge and narrative. The car mediates our experience of geography. Project management software mediates our experience of our work and our workload. And Zoom mediates our experience of meeting. Now, the clock, the book, the car, and language are all media inventions that dramatically changed how we understood the world. They produced massive societal change. Their arrivals reshaped our brains, our days, and our communities. Software has done and is doing the same, often in ways we don't perceive if we're not primed to notice. And I'm not talking about the internet broadly here. Obviously, the internet has had a world-changing societal impact. I'm really talking about software, categories of software, and individual apps. Software changes how we work, and it changes us as a result, sometimes in very positive ways, and sometimes in harmful ways. And of course, often the effect is somewhere between those two extremes. If we want to experience the positive impacts of software more often and resist its harmful ones, then we need to see it. We must be consciously aware of what it enables and what it disables. We must be intentional about the norms we establish with its use. More importantly, we need to ask what's best for us and the people we work with before we consider software and its features. In my previous life as a business coach, I would encourage small business owners to think about their software choices as if they were hiring an employee. First, take stock of what you need and the resources you have to invest. Next, write a job description. Then, recruit potential candidates and interview them to determine who was best suited to the job. So yeah, I literally had clients brainstorm exactly what they needed to get done, turn that into a job description, and then search for software options that fulfilled it. Interviewing might look like doing a trial of the software before committing, maybe attending a demo, or talking to a salesperson to get all your questions answered. The assignment was really valuable for those who completed it. However, not very many people completed it. It was a big challenge for most of the people I gave it to. They'd already learned not to think about what they wanted, but what the software was able to do. Outside of the software paradigm, they didn't know how to think about what they wanted done or how they wanted it done. They were much more comfortable starting with one set of features and comparing it to another set of features. As a result, they subverted their work and business priorities to those feature sets. The features of the software changed what they wanted from their work or what goals they were trying to accomplish. Time and time again, they'd switch up their software looking for something better, but rarely were they looking for a better fit. There is no right or best software for XYZ task. There is software that enables you to work the way you want to work and do the things that you want to do. And there is software that doesn't. No software is a perfect fit for any one person or any one job, but some software is a much better fit than others. I won't use project management software because it enables all the wrong things for me. I will use Canva and Descript because they enable most of the right things, even imperfectly. Software, like books or clocks, isn't going anywhere. Life and work will continue to be mediated by the apps we use. Instead of turning their feature sets into our standard operating procedures, we need to take the lead. Whenever possible, we need to see the software for what it is and decide whether its assumptions, biases, and incentives are the ones we want to incorporate into our lives and work. We need to be choosers more often than users.